Hello, and welcome to part 2 of Northwest Newsweek Year in Review. In early May, Ignace residents wrapped up voting on whether they want to see a nuclear waste site built near their community. But the results wouldn't be released until the summer. Lee Noonan had that story.
The polls are closed, and the people of Ignace have had their chance to say whether they want to stay in the running as a potential host community for Canada's high-level nuclear waste. After decades of groundwork, Canada's Nuclear Waste Management Organization plans to choose a location by the end of this year. The Ignace Wabigoon site is one of only 2 still in contention.
It has been a long time coming. I was on council when we first put our name in 2010, and to be in this position, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Property owners and residents 16 and up had 5 days from April 26th to the 30th to vote online or in person. They were asked to take a position on whether the township should proceed as a potential host community for a deep geological repository of used nuclear fuel, or whether to opt out, with an option to stay neutral.
Well, I voted for it. And why? Because I think it was going to be a big improvement in the whole northwestern Ontario. And that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm pretty happy with what I've learned about what they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, the safety. If you're going to make nuclear waste, we have to deal with it seriously.
I voted no because we are in a very pristine area, and I feel that Ignace doesn't need nuclear waste to kind of succeed as a community, and that's the feeling that I'm getting from the town.
The question is hotly debated here in Ignace, and most residents weren't willing to talk about how they voted one way or another. The results won't be made available until the summer, when the complete report is brought to council.
So Township Council wanted to hear more than just yes or no. They wanted to know why.
Shayla Brecken and her team have been conducting interviews and raising awareness of the willingness process since September. She says they've made contact with every household in township boundaries. She expects her report will be presented to Ignace's Willingness Committee in June. The committee will then make a recommendation to council.
If they don't want it, then we have to honor that. If they want it, then we have to honor that. So I'm patiently waiting to see that outcome, and I think it's going to be good.
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Also in early May, Parks Canada broke ground on a $37 million project at the Nippigan Marina. The new Lake Superior National Marine Conservation Area Administration and Visitor Centre was being built to give Parks Canada a permanent home in Nippigan. Jessica Clement was there.
Major progress is being made in Nippigan for the Lake Superior National Marine Conservation Area. The federal government awarded a $37 million contract to construct an administration and visitor center back in January, and Parks Canada, along with Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu and Nippigan Mayor Suzanne Kuko, broke ground on Saturday to celebrate the start of construction. The facility will be located on the Nippigan Marina, and once completed, will serve as Parks Canada's primary operations base and visitor reception for the conservation area. Parks Canada Representative Garth Grunerud says the NMCA was announced over 10 years ago, and employees have been working out of temporary accommodations.
This will provide a permanent home for Parks Canada in the region of the Lake Superior National Marine Conservation Area, which is basically from on land, Nippigan to Terrace Bay. And that will allow approximately 30 employees in the summer operating months and about 12 in the winter operating months to do all of their work from a new state-of-the-art facility.
During her speech, Haidu, who is also the minister responsible for FedNor, mentioned the dedication her predecessor, former Green Party MP Bruce Heyer, put into making the project happen. She says protecting the Great Lakes is something everyone should agree on.
The lake has had a very challenging history with industry for generations discharging into the lake. There are still many areas of the lake that are polluted or at risk of being polluted, and so conservation areas like this play a really important role in not just protecting the lake, but educating people about the importance of protecting that lake. And that should be a nonpartisan issue. I think we all want to see our natural environment continue to be healthy, continue to be beautiful, and continue to be there for the next generations.
Kuko says she's excited for the opportunities the facility will bring to the townships along the Lake Superior NMCA.
It's extremely beneficial for not only Nipigon, but for the entire region. So, you know, our industries have gone down, obviously, in the past 15 to 20 years. The forestry industry, you know, our mill burning down, the Red Rock mill closing, Terrace Bay mill closing. You know, we really have to diversify our economies, and tourism is a big part of that.
The new center should take roughly 2 years to complete, and if all goes according to plan, can be expected to open early 2026. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
That celebration was short-lived, however. Just 2 weeks later, Parks Canada officials confirmed that human remains, which could date back more than 4 centuries, were found at the site of the future National Marine Conservation Area headquarters.
Red Rock Indian Band's on-site environmental monitor identified additional remains being uncovered at the construction site, which have now been confirmed to be the remains of an adult Indigenous male believed to have lived prior to the 17th century.
According to Parks Canada, work stopped immediately when the remains were discovered and the relevant authorities were alerted. The Ontario Coroner's Office made the determination that the remains were those of an Indigenous man they estimate would have lived sometime before the 1600s. The work stoppage was expected to continue as the area was assessed.
Depending on what's found, additional archaeological monitoring and/or environmental monitoring might be needed. Parks Canada is currently working with relevant authorities and Indigenous groups to assess the significance and the proper handling of the discovery.
No more information about the discovery was being made available at that time. It was the second work stoppage that month at the site of the $37 million facility. A new social media page was launched in June by Unifor to shine a light on the dangers of a paramedic shortage in the eastern part of the Thunder Bay District. One post claimed people along the North Shore could expect rotating ambulance-based closures over the summer months. Justin Hardy had that story.
Ongoing staffing shortages being faced by Superior North EMS have become critical this year compared to the last few years, according to Carrie Jefford, president of Unifor Local 229. The union, which represents paramedics along the North Shore, recently launched a social media page to announce when staffing issues affect services in smaller towns in the district. Jefford says the page was meant as a way to raise awareness of the need for paramedics in the region.
We've been trying desperately over the last few years to increase staffing levels for paramedics in the district of Thunder Bay. We usually have about over 100 paramedics. Currently, right now, there's 24 job vacancies that are wide open, and people just aren't applying.
One post on Unifor's Facebook page claims EMS base stations will be experiencing rotating closures this summer due to inadequate staffing levels. EMS Chief Shane Muir is taking issue with that claim.
No, so there is no planned downstaffing. There is no rotating closures. We endeavor to staff every shift in every station, and we do try and prioritize those high call volume stations.
But Muir concedes the district is a vast area with 13 stations, and it won't be easy keeping all of them staffed.
That's a lot of shifts to cover. So it's a bit of a challenge to make sure that they're all filled. We have a problem with staff leaving with absenteeism. So it does compound some issues because we do have to provide that vacation time. Otherwise, our paramedics get burnt out. We went up into a very long-term dire situation.
Muir says that roughly 15 people could be hired for part-time positions. Jefford says that the real issue is the lack of proper incentives to want to work in the north.
We think some of the working conditions in the north and in the district stations is a bit of a challenge. Mostly, the wages and benefits packages need to reflect why people want to move up here into the district.
Staffing shortages are an ongoing issue across the province, which could potentially only get worse as Superior North EMS prepares for a possible gap year in graduates coming out of college in 2028. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Also in June, Ontario Premier Doug Ford made his way to Greenstone to renew partnerships with 4 area First Nations. But not all of the chiefs were pleased with the province's priorities when it comes to working with their communities. Once again, here's Justin Hardy with that story.
Doug Ford met with leadership from Long Lake 58, Arrowland First Nation, Animbigozagin, Anishinaabeg, and Ganugaming First Nation to sign letters of confirmation to support renewed partnerships with the 4 communities. He also announced $1.9 million for the Indigenous Workforce Development Program and $2 million to fund the construction and maintenance of the McGeezy Plaza rest stop on Highway 11 just outside Geraldton.
Without your collaboration and cooperation, this would not be happening right now. This is your legacy that you can drive by and tell your children, your grandchildren. If it wasn't for your leadership and everyone's cooperation, this wouldn't be happening right now. And it's such an honor to be here with you today, especially during National Indigenous History Month.
These opportunities that we have before us is going to create employment for our communities. They're going to enhance our communities, you know, in every which way. You know, we're all here for the same reason, prosperity, to make our communities grow.
Ford also announced plans to build and improve highway infrastructure and to develop a pre-charge diversion program with relevant First Nations and police services, as well as plans to relocate the Greenstone OPP detachment funded by Greenstone Gold Mine. Not every community leader in attendance was celebrating. Ganoogaming First Nation says that its chief participated Tuesday in duress. The community has been in a continuous state of emergency for the past 30 days. Chief Sherry Taylor says her community's suffering hasn't been addressed by the provincial and federal governments.
Our community is not starting at the same place in the starting line when it comes to Ontario's focus on investments in Greenstone. It is not missed on me that projects that benefit the government of Ontario are taking precedence over the resolution of our state of emergency, and that 7 decades of grievances that we've experienced have not been resolved.
The premier was not made available for any questions from the media following the announcement. Minister of Indigenous Affairs and First Nations Economic Reconciliation Greg Rickford says he and his office will be following up with Ganoogaming leadership about issues it's facing immediately. He also called on Federal Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu to assist.
And I hope that the federal minister will pay attention to what's gone on here today with the full support of the First Nations communities and commit now here today that when I call, she'll pick up the phone, she'll say, hello, Greg, let's address these residual matters that Chief Taylor mentioned.
Some of Ganoogaming First Nations grievances include industry and land sale activities, including water diversion being carried out on traditional territories without compensation or economic inclusion, and failure to implement a mining withdrawal to protect or preserve ongoing treaty land entitlement candidate lands. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Time now for a short break. When we come back, Kenora OPP fatally shot a man at Nissinabee Park. In late June, the identity of the man shot and killed by an OPP officer in Kenora was made public. The small First Nation of Wawakapiwin near Big Trout Lake issued a media release confirming the man was a member of that community. He was identified as 57-year-old Bruce Frog. The father of 2 daughters was said to be an avid outdoorsman. The chief and council of the First Nation released a statement announcing Frog's sudden passing and offered condolences to his family and friends. There was no reference made to the OPP or the fatal shooting. The province's Special Investigations Unit is probing the incident, which they say began with Frog lighting a building at Assiniboine Park on fire and then waving large knives at police officers before he was shot. Eyewitnesses or people with photos or videos of the incident were being asked to contact the SIU. In mid-July, Ignace Township officially became the first community to declare itself willing to host Canada's nuclear waste. Ignace passed the resolution during a special meeting of council following a vote earlier in the year. Justin Hardy was there and filed this report.
Thank you once again, everyone.
Ignace is now the first community to declare itself willing to continue in the selection process as a potential site of the Nuclear Waste Management Organization's Deep Geological Repository. The proposed repository is one of the first of its kind in the world. The decision was made by a unanimous vote of Town Council during a special meeting on Wednesday. Before the vote, the Willingness Ad Hoc Committee presented the findings of a public survey. According to the report, a majority of those that participated in interviews supported the project. From the voting results, 640 of the 1,035 eligible voters took part. 77.3% voted yes and 1.9% abstained. That still leaves roughly a fifth of those participating indicating that they are not willing. Ignace Mayor Kim Bagri says that the municipality will continue to keep an open dialogue with residents.
The door will always be open at the Learn More Center here in the community. Anyone who wants to learn more can actually go there. And we will encourage anyone that wants information to go there. So they will always have the opportunity to learn.
Also, critical voices are going to be instrumental in the process moving forward, ensuring safety and accountability and transparency. There's always room for critical voices in the process.
This decision keeps Ignace in the running for the final choice for the nuclear waste repository. The other potential sites, South Bruce, along with its First Nation neighbor, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, still need to decide if they are in fact willing to host the DGR. This gives Ignace time to improve its infrastructure and make itself more appealing for the project and for those that live there.
I think it is appealing, first and foremost. It's where I choose to live, work, and play. Do we need to invest in our community? We would, regardless of NWMO coming. Our community is worthy of investment, and we'll always look forward to those opportunities.
In order for the NWMO to choose the Ignace site, Wabigoon Lake also needs to decide whether or not it is willing. There is currently no set public date on when it will make this decision. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was in Fort Frances in late July, making appearances at rallies and a fundraiser. He continued his pledge to axe the carbon tax and also met with locals to hear what they want from a federal government. Justin Hardy caught up with Poilievre in Fort Frances and had that story.
Let's bring it home!
Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre kicked off his Northern Ontario tour this week in the western part of this region. Following a quick stop in Barwick, Poilievre made his way to the Fort Frances Legion for a rally and meet and greet. He says that he's hearing from people in the region that life is no longer affordable.
Yeah, I was just over at a lumber mill and listening to the concerns of people who can't afford to pay for gas, heat, and groceries after 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP hiking carbon taxes and income taxes and inflation. Life is not affordable. Work doesn't pay, and the government is trying to ban people's hunting rifles. None of it makes sense.
During the rally, Poilievre brought out his comprehensive plan that promises to reduce the cost of living, reform taxation through a dollar-for-dollar tax fairness policy, and reduce red tape on permits for new mining projects and road construction. He also promised to combat crime with tougher bail restrictions against repeat offenders and stopping the decriminalization of illicit drugs, as well as banning safe supply sites. During the rally, he emphasized the road to the Ring of Fire as a priority the country needs.
Infrastructure, we want to start building roads again. We need to build the roads. I know our current federal government is against roads for strange environmental reasons, but obviously in rural and remote communities you need roads, trucks, and other forms of traditional transportation. That's one of the reasons why we're going to axe the carbon tax.
The day following the rally, Poilievre made his way to Manitou Forest Products in Emo. He spoke to workers about reducing taxes to lower costs for companies, which he says will allow them to pay their workers bigger and more powerful paychecks. He also explained his plan to help First Nations benefit from local projects through the First Nation Resource Charge that he says is an optional arrangement that First Nations can adopt to collect 50% of the corporate tax generated from the resource projects on their land.
So if you have, whether it's a mine, a logging operation, or any other resource project on a First Nations land, then the company could pay 50% of its federal corporate tax directly to the local First Nation, allowing own source revenue. So the money would stay here rather than going to Ottawa to be devoured by the bureaucracy.
Poilievre's tour will continue east throughout the week with stops in Wawa, Hearst, Kirkland Lake, and Sudbury for a fundraising event where the maximum donation is $1,725. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Time now for another short break. The Greenstone Gold Mine officially opened in August. We'll have that story when we come back.
3, 2, 1. Whoa!
Equinox Gold held the official opening of its Greenstone gold mine in late August. The mine invited hundreds of people from the surrounding communities to celebrate the opening of the $1.4 billion gold mine. Justin Hardy was there and brought us the story.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Whoa!
The grand opening was a 2-day-long celebration both for the mine and the entire Greenstone area. Guests were given the chance to learn all about what the mine does and got up close and personal with some of the massive machines used in the mine's day-to-day operations. Attendees were also able to pose with a gold brick poured at the mine earlier this year that's worth roughly $3 million. Gordon Campbell, a former British Columbia premier and one of the directors of Equinox Gold, says the big celebration seemed fitting for a project that had such a long road to get to this point.
I remember being here for the groundbreaking. It was a freezing cold day in the groundbreaking, but we got the ground broken. And what really strikes me today is thousands of people had to come together and work together cooperatively, constructively, looking for solutions when there were problems to bring forward something that, Greenstone Mine, which will be a phenomenal economic asset, social asset. We intend to be great citizens and participants in the communities.
Leading up to the ribbon cutting, the crowd was addressed by the leaders of the local municipality and First Nations, as well as Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu and Ontario's Minister of Mines George Peary. The community was also greeted and congratulated virtually by the other mines owned by Equinox Gold. The mine also gave the community the chance to say goodbye to someone who has worked closely with Greenstone since the early days of the mine project 12 years ago, Eric Lemontang.
This unconditional support was so great and love. Thank you all.
Greenstone Mayor James McPherson says he's glad to see the community welcomed in as part of the celebrations.
Well, actually, this is a continuation of what the Greenstone Gold and its predecessors, Premier Gold, had done 12 years ago, almost 15 years ago. At all the community open houses, we've seen the mine, we've seen people from the mine come explain to us what's going to happen, all the different stages of the process. We've been well informed along the way. Now it's time to celebrate.
Campbell adds that in the spirit of that ongoing partnership and communication, the mine will endeavor to keep the surrounding communities up to date with plans and next steps through the expected 15-year lifespan of the mine. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
That's all for part 2 of our 2024 Northwest Newsweek Year in Review. We'll be back next weekend with part 3. Hope you'll join us then.